Hey, this is Zeklog the Great, and tonight we'll be continuing and concluding the library tour, or at least the fiction section of the library tour. Uh, if you guys are interested enough, if you'd like me to continue, I guess I can continue with the nonfiction books. Uh, Not as many of them, or not as many of them I've read, at least. I will not be doing the books I have not read because there's way too many of them and they are very disorganized. But yeah, we'll be finishing the fiction section of the library tour. And last time we stopped with Brandon Sanderson, so that is where we will be picking up. Okay, so last time I was talking about the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. That actually continues, the story continues with a couple of hundred years later, which is an interesting way to do it, with the Wax and Wane books. And then there's the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. Kind of funny story about those. I started reading this one, the first of the series, The Way of Kings, as an audiobook. And with an audiobook, you don't actually look at it that much. And so I was actually, there is something on there. I was actually a couple of, several chapters in before I noticed that this was, in fact, the first of a series. That this was the first of a 10-book series, and this is the only one that had been written yet. And I was very upset at that point because I'd kind of already committed to the story, but none of the rest of the story existed yet. It is, as of this recording, up to book 4. Things look good. I don't think he's going to pull a George R. Martin, but it is a little painful sometimes when you realize you're in a situation like that. Let's see. There's the Peter Wimsey mystery stories by Dorothy Sayers. Virtually Eliminated. I might reread that one. Science fiction, Christian science fiction, cyberpunk, kind of. I recall it being pretty good. Above what a lot of is published as Christian fiction tends to be. So, of course, Shakespeare. Several of those. These are the Shakespeare plays I've read. Some of them I may have read just for school. Several of them I've read on my own, and I should pull a couple of them out again. They were written as plays. They were written to be seen on stage, not to be read. But they're also, there's a reason, he is, commonly considered the greatest writer of the English language. And, there's a lot of good stuff there. Let's see. Clifford Simak, science fiction author, and likes. It's one thing that's kind of interesting about him. He likes setting story like science fiction stories in kind of small towns or kind of rural settings, which gives it a very different flavor than a lot of what you tend to see in the genre. Neal Stephenson, very interesting writer. The first thing I heard of by Neal Stephenson was Cryptonomicon. I heard about him from Roy H. Williams, the advertising guy, and he was talking about explaining what a great writer he is, and mentioned that and he quoted actually an excerpt where the guy goes on for like 3 pages about the proper way to eat Captain Crunch, and he makes this fascinating. That's an accomplishment. And so, yeah, Neil Stevenson, very interesting writer. Um, a lot of his books, he seems to have a hard time actually coming up with an ending, so he just smashes a bunch of things together and blows things up. Um, I haven't the most recent of his I read was Anathem. Anathem was very good. Snow Crash, Diamond Age, um, pretty. I guess you would consider those like kind of in the cyberpunk canon. So yes, very recommended. Robert Louis Stevenson, Kidnapped and Treasure Island. Um, Obviously, Robert Louis Stevenson, Treasure Island. Definitely some interesting adventure stories. Good stuff for kids, and good stuff for adults who, are willing to lower themselves isn't the right term. Willing to look for good in in unexpected places. Willing to look for the good in even something that is supposedly for kids. So let's see. I'm scanning up over stuff we've seen before, and here we go. What do we have? We have Theodore Sturgeon, science fiction writer, good stuff. The Ring by Koji Suzuki, basis of the Japanese movie Ringu, American remake The Ring. Yeah, it's interesting, creepy. It's been a while since I read the first one. And actually, Spiral is the third book of that set. Of course, Tolkien. You have to have Tolkien. I appear to have 3 different editions of The Hobbit there. None of them in terribly good condition or anything like that. But if you lose one, I don't know. More Tolkien, and kind of interesting story about this one. I picked this. No, wrong one. Yes, this copy. I picked this up at a used book sale, I think, because I like doing those things. And I found out a little bit after. This is by. You see it? Yes, Ace Science Fiction. This is actually kind of a pirated edition. Apparently, when Tolkien first got The Lord of the Rings published in the United States, the publisher made some kind of mistake in like the legal documents, and The Lord of the Rings was for a little while in the public domain. And Ace, someone at Ace figured this out, and they published their own edition without Tolkien, Tolkien or the publisher being involved. They later worked out their differences on this, but kind of funny story. Let's see. Journey to the Center of the Earth. That is, I think, the first book I specifically remember owning and like getting for myself. Let's see. I'm actually running out of shelf space, or running out of. I have to significantly rearrange things to fit these in with my fiction. So this is the next couple of books. Interesting vampire stories. Politically correct garbage involved as well, but most things published the last 20 years are going to have some degree of that. So, I can't read the title very well on Spine. John the Balladeer, or also known as Silver John by Manly Wade Wellman. Highly, highly recommend those stories. The author, again, is Manly Wade Wellman. Really good stuff. It is. I found that because of Appendix N, by by Jeffro Johnson, his commentary on the Appendix N for the original Dungeons and Dragons game, going over books and stories they've suggested you use kind of for inspiration. Manly Wade Melman, fascinating writer, highly recommend. Anyway, a lot of fun. H.G. Wells, The Invisible Man. This is, kind of like a little bit like the Journey of the Center Over the Earth. That's the first book I have specific memories of reading. I kind of remember where I was and how old I was when I read that the first time. You're probably not terribly interested in this. Let's see. Hugo Award winners by Connie Willis, back when the Hugo Award actually was worth something. The Chronicles of Chaos, or books 2 and 3 of the Chronicles of Chaos by John C. Wright. Interesting. It's a complex system of kind of magic, and it's kind of the Titans versus the gods, but it's not. Oh gosh, there's a lot to go in there. And there's different kinds of magic, and they interact where this kind of magic can reliably nullify that kind of magic, and how they interact, and the whole thing is a pretty cool setup. Good books. Roger Zelazny, Letter Z. We're at the end. The Great Book of Amber, the Complete Amber Chronicles. Actually, yeah, I think that is also on from Appendix N on Appendix N. Trying to avoid the glare here. There we go. And epic fantasy series, basically about people who are relative to us gods, who can kind of traverse between all these kind of different worlds, and a war among them. And it's 10 books. It's more or less split into books 1 through 5, and then it picks up with a different main character, books 6 through 10. I think books 1 through 5 are significantly better. And then Unicorn Variations. Is that what I think that is? Oh, okay. And this is just a book of a short story collection by Roger Zelazny. And that finishes my tour of the fiction books in my library. And so I hope you found this interesting and enjoyed it. Got a little bit of a glimpse into my home, my reading life, and what I find interesting. And so yeah, I hope you like this, and God be with you.